Discover a quirkless deku's admiration for Mt.lady in part 1 of our What If series. Join Anime Stark for this unique twist. Subscribe now and dive into the unexpected. You sipped her coffee, feeling bored as she waited for her assistant to arrive. She looked out of the cafe window, hoping to find something interesting to do. She wished there wouldn't be a bank robbery soon. As much as she'd like to stop it, she already had enough work on her plate. Having Izuku as her assistant made things a lot easier. The blonde vividly recalled Akatani's arrival in her hero life. He had only been a week into his debut and struggled with paperwork, given his lack of work experience and planning skills. Luckily, a solution emerged unexpectedly: the hero-assistant relationship. In the hero society, heroes couldn't handle all the paperwork and reports for their actions during investigations. Even getting permission to investigate a neighboring city took at least 3 hours, which you found frustrating. That's where assistants, also known as support heroes or companions, came in. Assistants supported the main hero in various tasks like paperwork, criminal investigations, and planning attacks on underworld organizations. You had a hard time getting an assistant since she had only been a hero for a week, but she managed to find Izuku in the provided list and quickly decided to take him. Izuku Akatani. Age, 21 years. Height, 1.74 meters. Quirkless Izuku graduated from the Shinomai School for Support Heroes, ranking 3rd throughout his study years. Despite lacking superpowers, he excelled in combat with weapons, holding his ground against low and mid-level villains. His outstanding intelligence and analytical skills made him proficient in research and criminal world infiltration. Notable achievements. Graduated from the academy 3 years earlier than the average. Caught 34 low-level villains in just 3 months of his career, working alongside professional heroes. Saved another assistant from being killed during a shootout. Assisted in a murder case with Detective Tsukaichi Naomasa. Achieved the highest rank in weaponry during his time at the Support Hero School, recognized as a prodigy in firearm use. You never thought she'd find such a skilled assistant. Each achievement made her eyes sparkle. Izuku was a goldmine she planned to make the most of during her hero career. Though she wasn't the first heroine to have Izuku on her team, as he had worked with 3 professionals before her. They all fired him after a while, the longest being 2.5 weeks. You couldn't understand why until she remembered a small detail in his file. She cursed the discriminatory society, wondering who could be so foolish to dismiss such a talented employee just for lacking superpowers. You wasn't the kindest person, but she didn't harbor hatred towards the quirkless, she simply ignored them. Her mother didn't work hard in the field to raise a worthless human being. You snapped out of her thoughts when she heard someone approaching. It was Izuku, dressed in a smart suit with a support hero badge on his utility belt. His green hair and black eyes shone as he walked towards her, his well-built physique and mature demeanor making it hard to believe he was a rookie. At just 21, Izuku Akatani seemed like a seasoned professional. He carried a briefcase, and one hand was free, always close to his holstered pistol in case it was needed. He was also handsome, the kind of handsome that didn't displease you. Unfortunately, he was her colleague, so she had to avoid those thoughts at work, or she might have invited him casually for a meal. "Good morning, Takeyama-sama," greeted Izuku as he sat on the other side of the table to face his boss. Izuku was at least 10 centimeters taller than you, so he had to lower his head a bit to see her, which annoyed the blonde slightly but not enough to make a big deal out of it. The waitress arrived, and Izuku ordered a coffee with cream, milk, and sugar, as he had a bad experience with plain coffee the last time. "Akatani-san," you addressed the adult in front of her with a firm tone. Despite their close age and both being novices with little or no experience, she was the boss and needed to act like one to command respect. "Give me a report on what we have today." "All right," Izuku nodded and placed his briefcase on the table, revealing a laptop that was perfectly hidden inside. "I finished the paperwork you left me yesterday, so now we can move around the neighboring city without any problem." "Thanks." "You're welcome. I also requested the Hero Public Safety Commission to pay for the damages from your last battle. It got approved, and the reconstruction of the damaged buildings will start soon." "It wasn't that much," mumbled the embarrassed heroine. "Takeyama-sama, it was 800,000 yen in damages." You lowered her head even more. "The HPSC has money, but we can't go around destroying everything in every fight." "I understand," the blonde nodded to her companion, intending to avoid damage in the next fight against a villain. "Anything else important?" "I requested an investigation for a case south of Musetafu." Izuku turned his laptop and showed some documents. A 7-year-old girl was shot and killed through her bedroom window. "God, be a bit more discreet with these topics," said you with annoyance. She didn't like casually discussing such matters, even in a private setting. "Here's your coffee," "Sir, the waitress left Izuku's coffee on the table." "Thanks," you nodded, gave a smile, and the waitress left. Izuku took a sip of his coffee and then looked back at his boss. "I'm sorry. Don't do it again." "Now, continue," you nodded as Izuku acknowledged the words of the rookie heroine. "Why did you request this case?" "The autopsy." Izuku displayed the documents on the topic on his laptop. "The witnesses, her parents, said she was alone in her room when she got shot. According to them, it was a normal day, and she was happy because she had just bought some new manga. The bullet entered through her bedroom window and hit the girl's face." You couldn't help but shiver at the thought of such a scene. But tears were found on the girl's face, contradicting her parents' testimony that she was happy and calm. He nodded, letting Izuku continue. "I also talked on the phone with the body treatment officials." "What did they say?" "They sent me a photo of the bullet used in the murder. It wasn't a sniper bullet but a pistol one," Izuku explained. "They live on the 25th floor of a building, and there's no place where someone can stand next to the window and shoot with a pistol. The only way to commit a murder from outside is with a sniper, but as I said, the bullet didn't belong to that type of weapon." "So, the bullet was fired inside the room?" You looked surprised and disgusted at what that would imply. "Yes, and it doesn't end there." Izuku showed another document. "The police and forensics report states that the murder happened at 1:30 in the afternoon with the parents at home. I asked them to get their work schedules, and they had a break from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. It's impossible for someone to sneak into the apartment and shoot the girl without the parents noticing, twice." "Twice?" You showed surprise. "The neighbor's testimony. They said they first heard a strange noise and then an actual shot. From the details in this report, the first shot was likely fired with a silencer," Izuku explained. "But in the parents' testimony, only one shot is mentioned. I have to personally check the building to gather more data." "And that's why you're asking me to investigate it," she nodded. You immediately took out her wallet and left some money on the table, enough to cover their expenses. "Let's go get our suits, we have work." Izuku nodded, finished his coffee, and then both left the cafe and got into the blonde's car. She started the vehicle towards her home while Izuku continued reviewing the case documents. "You know, it's strange, you decided to start a conversation to make the journey home less heavy. When I became a heroine, I thought they'd only use me to face giant villains occasionally. A weapon that only serves to kill is good for nothing," Izuku said, recalling a saying from his weapons instructor. "Heroes are the same, a hero who only exists to defeat villains isn't a true hero. You have to be ready for all kinds of accidents, even if your quirk doesn't favor you." "I understand," you nodded, then made a left turn on a street. "How was your time at Shinomai Academy?" "It was tough in the first year, people aren't very kind to the quirkless," Izuku sighed a bit. "But over time, they started seeing me as an equal. They didn't like me, but they didn't hate me either, it just became a middle ground. I think getting good grades and being first in almost all areas helped." "You must have studied a lot, right?" Izuku nodded. "When I was in my academy, I wasn't the best student in general education. I passed most classes with an average score. Although, I always excelled in physical activities." "Where did you study?" "UA? Shiketsu?" "At an academy in the countryside in Hokkaido." Izuku raised an eyebrow in confusion. "Yes, I'm from the countryside. Also, it's challenging to find a place that can train a giant." "Why did you come to the big city?" "Money, fame, more opportunities." Izuku didn't say anything. "Hey, don't judge me. I'm not, it just surprises me a bit." "My mother is famous in the countryside." Izuku paid attention to the heroine's words. "She's the main distributor of fruits, vegetables, and meat in the countryside. Everyone knows her, and she makes millions with it. It must be incredible to have her." "It is," she smiled with a hint of nostalgia. "Despite what I told you, Mama never became an idiot. She enjoyed the fame and fortune she had accumulated, but she still kept her feet on the ground. She once told me that everyone has the right to enjoy their own achievements." "Is that why you want to be a heroine?" "Yes, I admire everything Mama did in the countryside, but it's not for me." You shook her head and continued driving. "I prefer heroism. My dream is to help people and reach a level equal to that of my mother, to be recognized for my achievements and enjoy everything I did along the way." "It's a good dream." Izuku couldn't help but smile at her words. It was nice to see people dream. "Do you have any dreams?" "As a child, I wanted to be a hero with my best friend." The green-haired guy closed his laptop for a moment. "She was born with pyrokinesis, but I didn't get a quirk, so I had to give up that dream." "And you decided to be a support hero?" Yes, I think I can help people that way. Izuku let out a slight sigh. Besides, I promised my friend that when she became a hero, we would work together. What is she like? Izuku took out his phone and searched for a photo, then showed it to you. The girl had short green and black hair exactly like Izuku's, green eyes, and freckles on her face that suited her well along with her light black lipstick. She was dressed in the UA uniform, and despite being somewhat small, maturity and experience were evident in her being. Although you notice the incredible resemblance between them. Is she your friend or your sister? You look like twins, the blonde said, somewhat surprised by the similarity. Everyone says the same. But no, we're not family, the green-haired guy said. That we look so much alike is a strange coincidence, but we did blood tests, and we're from different families. My last name is Akatani, and hers is Midoriya. Wait, Midoriya? She blinked in surprise. Isn't that the same Mikami Midoriya from the Big Four of UA? That's her, Izuku confirmed her doubt. She's in the second year, just a few more years to graduate. Usually, they graduate at 21, although it depends more on the academy, you said. In mine, they do it at 24. Wait, we've arrived. You stopped her car in front of a small but nice house, then got out with Izuku, and both entered the place. The green-haired guy sat on the couch while waiting for the blonde to change. I still remember when I arrived with her a week ago. Izuku smiled a bit as he remembered how he met the heroine. It's strange that heroes like tight suits or showing parts of their bodies so much. Image things, I suppose. I'm ready, Izuku observed as you came out of her room, dressed in her heroine suit. Let's go. I'm ready, Izuku observed as you came out of her room, dressed in her heroine suit. Let's go, how can we help you? A man asked after opening the door to his apartment, encountering a professional heroine and her assistant. Good afternoon, Mr. Kawara, Mt.lady greeted the man first, noticing his worn-out appearance, so she tried to be as delicate as possible. My name is Mt.lady, and this is my assistant. We are investigating your daughter's case and wanted to ask for permission to enter. Would that be okay? Well. Izuku quickly noticed the man's features. He had some barely visible scars that had been there for a while. The tremor in his skin and the lack of confidence in his tone indicated fear. Someone who had just lost their daughter would probably be crying their eyes out, but Izuku couldn't see any traces of tears on his face. The sweat dripping from his body told him he was quite nervous, but why? Kawara. Who the hell is this? The three turned their gaze to a woman inside the apartment, slightly taller than Kawara and more robust. Izuku could see from her expression that she had a terrible temper. Moreover, the fact that Kawara shuddered at her voice made him suspicious. Excuse us, we are investigating your daughter's case. Would you allow us to enter? You asked, trying to sound friendly. Obviously, they didn't need permission to enter. The police needed a warrant, as heroes had superior access to places where a crime had occurred or was occurring. Still, you didn't want to upset the woman, not after her daughter had been murdered. Fine, but I don't know why you're bothering. The police already looked at everything they needed. She moved, allowing both to enter. Good luck with whatever you're doing. Izuku was the first to examine the apartment with his gaze, focusing on the furniture, living room, and kitchen. Izuku saw nothing strange except for a red stain in the corner of the wall, dangerously close to the ceiling. Izuku was alert but decided to examine that later. Now, he would focus on the girl's room. Izuku and you entered the girl's room. If you remove the crime scene, it was a genuinely normal and beautiful room, a bed full of dolls, a shelf with manga, a wardrobe, and a play area. But, thanks to the blood on the wall and floor, the bullet hole in the window, the police tape, and the terrible smell, everything was spoiled. Watch any movements they make, Izuku approached you and whispered in her ear. I have to see something, but don't take your eyes off them, and report anything strange to me. You nodded, and Izuku approached the window first. Through it, a building was perfect for shooting with a sniper rifle, but that had already been ruled out due to the difference in bullets. The green-haired guy looked at the hole from different angles, analyzing everything. It was done from the inside, Izuku thought, observing the hole with slight irritation. It's a good attempt to try to disguise it, but a pistol bullet shot from the distance between both buildings wouldn't break the window like that. Plus, the angle doesn't match since the hole is made in a straight line, but the building where the gun supposedly was fired is higher, so it should have been a descending hole at least. Besides, Izuku took out a tape measure from his pocket and stood in front of the window. The girl was 1.30 meters tall, so the tape had to be more or less at the height of the shot. It fell short, the bullet hole was above the girl's head. He couldn't have shot from there, even if the girl was crouching. Izuku directed his gaze to the blood on the floor and wall. This is weird. What's happening? Yu asked, who still had her eyes on the couple. Life isn't a Tarantino movie, a gunshot wouldn't cause blood to spatter like this, Izuku muttered, looking at the blood on the floor and the wall. Tarantino? Yu tilted her head, somewhat confused. Really? Django? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Reservoir Dogs? Yu remained confused. God, sit down one afternoon and watch some good movies. Akatani. Right, Izuku shook his head and spoke again. As I was saying, a pistol shot wouldn't cause such a blood spill. Even if it were to splatter, it would be impossible for this to happen. On the floor was a large pool of blood spreading on one side, and on the wall, the result of a large blood spatter could be seen. It splattered too high, and the blood on the floor is far from the wall. For it to reach that place, someone must have taken the blood and thrown it directly. There's no way the blood would get there without the intervention of another person. And according to the report, Izuku directed his gaze at both, whispering low so as not to be heard by anyone else. Only the two of them were here before, during, and after the murder. Inverted question mark. Got something to say, kid? The annoyed woman asked. Izuku just sighed and got up from the floor. Nothing, ma'am, I just noticed that your husband's tie is messed up. She looked at her husband, who adjusted his tie. According to the report, your daughter was quirkless. Izuku crossed his arms and looked at the floor while thinking. On her body, there were scars and bruises from beatings that predated the murder, quite an interesting detail. Izuku stood up and left the room, followed by the three others. The green-haired boy first entered the bathroom, examined the place thoroughly but found nothing. Then he headed to the kitchen and approached the sink. Finding slight red stains in the drain, he searched the first aid kit, finding a bottle of hydrogen peroxide with the cap poorly closed. Perfect for removing blood, thought the green-haired boy, before moving away from the fridge. Mt.lady, can you help me? Stop, Izuku raised an eyebrow when the woman stood in his way. Her expression could easily be mistaken for anger, but Izuku saw desperation in her eyes, especially as she started sweating. You'll stop this madness right now. What the hell do you think you're implying, you little demon kid? Why is she so upset? We're just doing our job to find clues leading to her daughter's killer, Izuku said, looking into the woman's eyes. The woman saw a slight smile and kind eyes on the boy's face. Don't worry, I understand that the girl's death is affecting you. Still, I ask you to let me do my job. Oh, calm down, miss. Just sit and let us investigate. Izuku approached the woman and showed a warm smile. Without her noticing, he signaled to you the location of the bloodstain he had seen before. You seem a bit heated, you should hydrate as it would be a shame for such a beautiful woman like you to be affected by the heat. Oh, thank you very much, she smiled a bit, enjoying the compliment. Did you fix your hair this morning? It looks hydrated. Izuku glanced at the woman's hair. Yes, I'm glad someone noticed. She wasn't subtle at all in looking disdainfully at her husband. How could I not notice? I firmly believe that a woman with well-cared-for hair is an unparalleled beauty, said the green-haired boy, before blinking and stepping back with shyness. My apologies, I shouldn't behave like this. Oh, don't worry, dear, go on. She shortened the distance between them. Tell me, do you like coffee? I'm quite a fan, but only with cream and milk, said Izuku. When I was a child, I tried black coffee and found it quite unpleasant, so I've hated it ever since. Tastes change over time, you should try it again. She reached her hand to Izuku's shoulder and squeezed it a bit. Maybe you'll like it. How about the two of you have a cup of coffee once you finish your investigation? I'd love to, but judging by the look your husband is giving me, I can tell my presence won't be pleasant. Izuku watched as the woman looked at her husband angrily for a moment, making him lower his head, only to then smile again at the green-haired boy. Don't worry, dear, you're welcome to stay. Izuku watched as she tousled her hair. You're adorable. Adorable like a puppy or like a child? Oh, please, she rolled her eyes. Children are not adorable, they're annoying little creatures that do nothing but bother and take up your time. I guess we all have different opinions, Izuku shrugged. Akatani-san. Everyone turned to see you taking something from a hole in the ceiling. It was a gun and gloves with somewhat dried blood. Izuku smiled a bit at seeing them and then looked at both parents, who were in shock. Well, that's it for today, folks. I kindly ask you to accompany us to the police station. What? The woman glared at Izuku with annoyance. Who the hell do you think you are to accuse me, you brat? At no point have you been accused of anything, we just need you to answer some questions. Then you can leave in peace. It's not like you'll be very peaceful soon, you interrupted Izuku, looking at Kawara. During our entire visit, she kept him close, even gripping his arm tightly. I could see how she whispered terrifying things to him. She's been threatening the poor man since we arrived. No, he. Kawara-san, Izuku looked at the man, interrupting his words. That's not up for discussion. We noticed it from the beginning, so refrain from lying. This is ridiculous. I want you out of my house now. The issue, ma'am, is not whether we are inside or outside your home but what happened to your daughter. Izuku stood firm in front of the woman, his gaze managing to intimidate her a bit. Remember that everything you say can be used against you later. Now, Izuku looked at Kawara, reducing the intensity of his gaze a bit. You know, I used to be like that. Like what? I was bullied for a long time. I turned into a nervous wreck unable to stand up to others. I don't blame you for how you are now because I would be exactly the same in your situation, Izuku said. Tell me, when we submit a report of what we found here along with the crime objects, do you want to be remembered by people and your family as someone evil or as the person who said, I'm going to do what's right? Get out of my damn house, the woman screamed, only to be ignored. Once upon a time, there was a man manipulated by an abusive wife who took away all his character. They had a daughter who was not loved by her parents. Izuku began to speak, and the tension in the air increased. One day, the woman got fed up with her daughter and decided to end her life. The man was dragged into that crime and now fears for his safety, while slowly the guilt for his baby's death consumes him inside until there's nothing left but. She killed her, Izuku sighed upon hearing the man scream, who finally fell to the floor crying. Don't you dare. Shut up, damn it, the man writhed on the floor in anger. You ruined my life. I used to be so happy without you here, I don't know what the hell I was thinking marrying you. A year passed, then another, and it's been 8 years of this crap, I can't take it anymore. You killed my daughter. I did it for our own good, that damn parasite was ruining us. Liar, you're a damn lying trash, Kawara continued to cry. You never change, you never feel it. You ruined my life. The sound of a gun drew both of them out of their situation. Izuku was aiming his weapon at the woman. You're under arrest for murder, said the green-haired boy, gritting his teeth in anger. Get down, now. You can't arrest me. We have enough evidence. Izuku adjusted his tie a bit, revealing a tiny hidden microphone. So, with all due respect, get down. You damn bastard. Izuku watched as the woman slowly began to grow while her skin turned red, but Mt.lady acted quickly and grabbed the woman by the waist and then jumped out of a window with her behind. While in the air, the heroine grew and grew until she landed on the ground, where she quickly immobilized the woman with one hand. Her presence abruptly stopped the traffic. My partner said, get down. You looked up to see Izuku peering through the window. The blonde raised a giant thumb with a smile. The green-haired boy smiled back and gave her a thumbs up. Did you know it from the beginning? The man asked from the ground, his eyes burning from tears. The evidence made me suspicious of both, so I prepared for the worst. Izuku approached the man and extended a hand. I'm sorry, but I really need you to come with me. I just want this nightmare to end. He seemed quite broken, which shook the heart of the green-haired boy. My daughter is dead. And her killer will go to jail, I'll make sure of that. -45, 46, 47. An 18-year-old green-haired girl was lifting some weights while the television played in the background. Her athletic body sweated due to the effort she was making to stay in shape until she stopped and heard some news that surprised her. Late this afternoon, a woman was arrested for murdering her own daughter and manipulating her partner to hide the tragedy. Thanks to the evidence found in the apartment and the husband's testimony, the woman would be quite close to facing a trial. All of this was thanks to the rookie hero Mt.lady and the support hero Izuku Akitani. The truth is that my partner took care of solving the whole case. I just neutralized the villain, but I hope that in the future, we both become an incredible duo. I think Mt.lady gives me too much credit. I would be hurt if not for her intervention. Anyway, thank you very much for interviewing me, but I have to go, there's more work to do. HMPF, so you graduated before me, the green-haired girl smiled a bit and took her hair with one hand, then took a band in the other. Are you also working with a pro hero? Impressive. Mikami continued doing repetitions for a while until she finally finished her session. Then she left her room and went down to the living room where her mother was cooking lunch. Good morning, Mom. Oh, good morning, Mikami. Inko smiled and hurried to serve her lunch. How was your workout? Did you hurt yourself? Don't worry, Mom, I'm fine. She sat down, waiting for her food, and checked the news about Izuku and Mt.lady online. Did you know that Izuku is already a support hero? He graduated already? Inko almost dropped the plate in surprise. But it's a 6-year course. I know, isn't it surprising? She smiled, looking at the photo of Izuku with Mt.lady. He beat me to it, but I'll graduate in just 3 more years. Are you still on that? Inko chuckled and glanced at a photo on the wall. It's been years. The photo showed 8-year-old Izuku and 5-year-old Mikami, both posing in front of the camera with joy. The girl used her pyrokinesis to create a circle around them, showing their close bond at such a young age. If he became a support hero, he must remember the promise, even a little. Mikami smiled with nostalgia, then received a message on her phone. Mom, I have to go. What? But you haven't had lunch. Seer wants Mirio and me to go to his agency for something important. Mikami rushed to her room to change. I'll grab something on the way, don't worry. Izuku stood in front of the mirror, finishing putting on his work uniform. It had been several days since he and you arrested the female assassin. With all the evidence, she would go to trial, and they needed to continue working on other matters. After dressing, he went to the kitchen and prepared a simple sandwich with scrambled eggs and ham, along with a coffee filled with cream, milk, and sugar. It wasn't the healthiest, but he liked it. While eating, he decided to review today's work documents. A support hero's job was simple: provide assistance to the main hero in all aspects of their work, research, rescue, reports, assaults on criminal groups, and more. Izuku took only 3 years to learn everything needed for the job. Or at least that's what the documents said. I need upgrades to my suit, Izuku thought while reading the documents. I can take care of that later. He took another sip of coffee before starting on the paperwork. Most were things Mt.lady had to fill out, but as she preferred patrolling, Izuku handled it. Reports on the situation in his territory or damage reports were part of his daily routine. It wasn't his favorite, but it was his job, and he was okay with it. Izuku noticed a document from a hair product company. I better ask her directly. He dialed the giant heroine's number, and after a few seconds, she answered. Good morning, Akatani. Izuku heard her biting into something. Need anything? You got a sponsorship offer from a hair product company. They want to create a new product with your image, Izuku said, taking another sip of coffee. That's incredible. Can you arrange a date to sign? Actually, I'd advise you to have your agent review the contract first. Izuku looked at the documents again. Not to scare you, but lately, the fine print can be pretty aggressive. I think you're right, but still, my image is starting to grow. Do you know how amazing that is? I know, and congratulations, Takeyama-san. Hey, drop the sama, just call me San at least. Okay, congratulations, Takeyama-san. Thanks. Every day one step closer, Izuku's eyes widened hearing a loud crash on the other end. I have to go, a giant lizard is attacking the city. Send me your location via phone. I'll tell the emergency services to support you. Thank you. You hung up the call, and a few seconds later, Izuku received her location. The green-haired guy hurriedly called 911 to report what had happened. The police, the rescue squad, and the paramedics would head to that location. If what he heard was true, he had no doubt that their help would be necessary. Izuku decided to join the fight as well. While he believed Mt.lady could handle it, he wanted to ensure everything went smoothly. He got up, grabbed a sniper rifle from his personal armory, donned his combat belt, and hopped on his motorcycle to go to Yu's location. The sniper rifle had become one of his favorite weapons after watching Lady Nagant shoot villains in some old internet videos. Izuku's motorcycle was much faster than a regular one, a gift from his mother with imported technology from Island, ensuring impeccable quality. Smiling, Izuku accelerated, leaving all other cars behind. If any hero or police tried to stop him, he would simply show his support hero license and be on his way. It took Izuku 3 minutes to reach the location, finding 2 buildings about to collapse after Mt.lady was slammed into them. Clicking his tongue at the giant lizard biting his boss's arm, Izuku accelerated his motorcycle and reached into his belt, pulling out a grenade. Moving close to the creature, he threw the grenade on its back. The explosion caused significant pain, making the lizard release you. Seeing Izuku, it shrank, allowing him to pass by and capture you. The green-haired hero then distanced himself and skidded with his motorcycle several meters away from the creature. Before you could say anything, Izuku took the rifle, aimed at the lizard, positioned the weapon correctly, and fired. The gunshot was loud, and the bullet pierced the lizard's skin, grabbing its attention. Izuku put the rifle back on his back and accelerated on the motorcycle. The blonde heroine nearly fell but managed to hold onto Izuku's waist. Can you take us to a forest? Yu asked, watching the giant lizard pursuing them. I can't fight it and worry about civilians at the same time. I got it. Hold on. Izuku pressed a button on his motorcycle, and a loud siren sounded. The noise alerted bystanders who moved out of the way in time. The lizard chased the duo through the city, breaking several things in its path, but fortunately, no civilians were gravely injured. A few minutes later, they finally reached a forest. Izuku looked at a mountain, drove towards it, while you held on tightly. When I give the signal, jump and enlarge, Izuku said, to which the blonde nodded. The green-haired hero pressed another button, and spikes emerged from the motorcycle's wheels. Izuku climbed up the mountain wall while the lizard tried to catch them until, with a final burst of speed, they shot into the air, far above the ground. Now, Mt.lady jumped off the motorcycle, and her body began to grow as she spun. She kicked the giant lizard's face, landing on her feet. Then, she used one hand to catch Izuku and leave him on the mountain. She was about to smile but was rammed by the enraged reptile seeking revenge. Izuku got off the motorcycle, aimed through the scope, and shot the lizard to help Mt.lady. His bullets pierced the creature's body, giving the blonde hero perfect moments to attack. Izuku decided to be more forceful and shot the lizard in the eye, allowing you to grab it from the back and perform a suplex. The force of the blow caused a small shockwave in the forest. Izuku shielded himself a bit, but as soon as the wave passed, he saw you breathing heavily next to the defeated beast, with several wounds on her body and face. Izuku got back on his motorcycle and descended from the mountain to go to the blonde. She decided to return to her original size for now. Are you okay? Izuku asked, noticing her torn costume and injured skin. More or less, she rubbed her arm with some pain. Get on, I'll take you to the hospital, said Izuku. You should consider some armor. I can't. It's already challenging to make a suit that stretches when I do, the blonde replied, climbing on the motorcycle with some discomfort, holding onto the guy's waist. You could request a stretchable carbon fiber mesh with the fabric. I'm sure at least one support device agency could make it, Izuku suggested, securing a belt for Mt.lady to prevent her from falling and getting hurt more. If you want, I can make the request myself. Thanks. She rested her head on Izuku's back, wanting to rest a bit. What will happen to the villain? I already sent a message to the police, they'll come to arrest him. Izuku ignited the motorcycle and advanced at a moderate pace. Next stop, the hospital. Mt.lady could only smile and snuggle closer to his back. Heroic life was very enjoyable with a partner like Izuku. Here it is, Izuku smiled and placed a tray with a sandwich on the blonde's lap. Thanks, Akatani-san, you smiled back and took the sandwich, savoring the taste. Both were in a hospital room, you sat on the bed with her wounds healed. She wore a hospital gown while her hero costume was being washed and repaired. They discussed the recent events while waiting for her to be ready to go home. Not much damage this time, that should avoid complaints from the commission, Izuku said, reviewing some documents on his computer. The police locked up the giant lizard, and there were no injuries. What about the building? You asked, concerned about civilians. Under reconstruction. Thanks to Cementos, it will be ready by tomorrow, and people can return to work. The blonde felt quite relieved to hear that. Everything went well. Yu's purple eyes sparkled as she looked at Izuku, a small smile escaping her lips. Thanks for the help. Don't worry, I'm your partner, after all, Izuku returned the smile, then glanced at his computer. And it also helped me practice my marksmanship. How are you so good? You recalled the precise shots that hit the beast, feeling amazed by their accuracy. You didn't miss a single bullet, and we were both moving. I have talent, and my armory instructor wouldn't let me graduate until he squeezed every bit of my rifle skill, Izuku said. And by the way, none of the shots I made were random. None? Why do you think my bullets affected something that size? They're not anywhere near as powerful as Lady Nagant's, Izuku laughed a bit. I hit several key points on its body, where the skin is thinner, and the nerves are affected. Oh, Izuku laughed as he saw stars in Yu's eyes. Can you teach me to use weapons? I think you should stick with fists, although you could practice a fighting style for that. Izuku returned to his computer, scrolling through documents until he stopped at one. Something wrong? Yes, actually, I think we should intervene in this. Izuku showed some photos on his computer, depicting giant footprints in forests. Lately, something has been lurking in the city's forests, hiding and destroying everything in its path. Judging by the footprint size, it must be something giant. And we need another giant thing to fight it, you said, a smile spreading across her face. All right, once I recover, we'll work on that. Izuku nodded with a smile. He had been with his new partner for just over a week, and he already liked her 1,000 times more than the rest of the heroes he had worked with. He was sure they would achieve much more. Akatani, you called Izuku's attention from the kitchen. What? Izuku, who was putting on his combat suit inside the bedroom, responded to his boss's call. Your apartment is nice, but, you made a disgusted face seeing the dirty dishes in the sink. Could you be cleaner with the dishes, especially when your boss comes to pick you up? I swear I washed them this morning, Izuku said from the room, then came out fully dressed. Seriously, I don't know where all these dirty dishes come from. You observed Izuku closely. The green-haired guy wore a full black bodysuit with protective plates at the most critical points of his body. Over it, he wore a dark green vest with black stripes, open to expose his chest. The shirt was filled with pockets where Izuku kept various types of ammunition. A tactical belt held his pants of the same color, with more pockets, and his boots were black with a white tip. He also had a green ribbon tied to his right leg. Izuku wore a helmet covering his entire head, customized to fit his skull. There was a green visor and a filter for breathing in the eye area. To complete his appearance, he had a sniper rifle on his back, 2 pistols on the sides of his thighs, and a military-style backpack hanging from his shoulder, much more comfortable. Inside it were food, tools, and other devices that would help in case of an emergency. After all, what kind of fool goes into battle alone with just weapons, and more weapons? Definitely not Izuku. Why, you gasped at Izuku's appearance. Amazing, isn't it? Izuku chuckled, seeing his boss's expression. I usually only wear my suit for important occasions. I think exploring unknown terrain qualifies as one. It's cool, it even looks like I'm the assistant, you said, touching Izuku's chest plate with amazement at the boy's suit. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that, Izuku said, pressing a part of his helmet, causing it to retract and reveal his face. Look, I like working with you. You're a nicer person than most I've had the luck to deal with, but you need to be more authoritative. I am. Not with me, at least not entirely, Izuku rolled his eyes. I've seen you talk to other professionals. It's okay to respect those of higher rank. But not when it comes to other rookie heroes. I see how insecure you feel talking to them, letting their comments slide, allowing subtle orders that are harmful to you in the field. Being a hero is about saving people and stopping villains from causing harm. But this isn't a comic. Hero is a profession, not a title for characters whose publishers won't let them grow or die because their status quo makes them money. Izuku crossed his arms. In any profession, your co-workers will try to prevent you from surpassing them and stealing their chance to progress. You fell silent, knowing deep down that it was true, but as a novice in this field, she still had some reservations about accepting it. Izuku sighed, perhaps he should have been gentler. Listen, I'm not asking you to become rude with any other rookie hero who tries to give you orders. Izuku put his helmet back on. But I advise you to be more cautious. Analyze everything they tell you carefully, and when you see everything is against you, stand firm and don't let them bring you down. Despite being your assistant, I can't do everything for you, or you won't grow as a heroine. All right, you smiled at Izuku as she raised her fist in front of her face. I'll keep that in mind, thanks, Akatani-san. You're welcome. Thanks for not firing me. Oh, come on, who would fire someone for advice? You stayed silent, waiting for a response. When she didn't get one, she caught the hint. Don't mess with me. Discriminators look for excuses everywhere to attack people without quirks. One of the most common is disobeyed orders and lacked respect for a superior. Izuku sighed and walked towards the door. We have work to do. You nodded and followed Izuku, although deep down, she couldn't help but feel sorry for everything the boy had been through. Were they really that bad as a society? She hopped on Izuku's motorcycle, and both started their journey to the forest where they had found the footprints. Izuku skillfully maneuvered through traffic while you held onto him with her hands on her abdomen. Several minutes passed until they finally reached the forest. Izuku drove his motorcycle through the area until they found one of the giant footprints. It looks like a human foot, said you. She got off Izuku's motorcycle to closely examine the footprint. But there are claw marks on the trees, so I doubt it's something like that. Maybe someone with a mutation-type quirk? I agree, but for now, we should look for some clues around here. Izuku and you advanced through the forest, following the giant footprints and the destruction around them. Both took note of everything they saw and analyzed the situation in detail, although Izuku had an obvious advantage. But they stopped when the footprints and the trail of destruction came to an end. This is strange, you approached the first tree marking the end of the destruction. Shouldn't there be more around here? Something like this can't just disappear without a trace. Let me check something. Izuku pressed a button on his visor, and the vision switched to thermal. The green-haired hero looked around and then directed his gaze to the ground. His eyes widened as he saw several living beings in it, swiftly ascending to the surface. Oh, no. Run. Izuku moved towards his boss and pushed her aside. Then, the ground beneath him broke, and a massive fist struck his body. But it didn't stop there. Numerous punches hit Izuku's body, sending him flying away from the new enemies. Izuku could only writhe in pain on the ground. He felt another blow shatter his helmet and send him flying against a rock. The impact gradually made him lose consciousness. The last thing he saw before passing out was you growing in size to confront the enemies. Izuku gradually regained consciousness. His body was sore from the powerful blows he had received, part of his armor was shattered, and he definitely wouldn't be healthy soon. The green-haired hero saw everything blurry, but he could feel his head in a rather comfortable place while someone was stroking his hair. Izuku tried to clear his vision, and when he succeeded, he was surprised by the sight of you smiling with relief, despite the clear pain in that smile. The woman was battered, her face had bruises, cuts, and blood everywhere. Her body was injured almost entirely, not to mention her suit, which had been completely torn during their fight. Izuku turned his head to the side, finding a trace of the enemies who knocked him out in no time. It seemed like they had fled. The green-haired hero looked at you in surprise, and the blonde could only give him her best smile despite the pain in her injured face. Izuku didn't hesitate to return that smile despite the pain. The fact that his companion went above and beyond to protect him. It felt good. So. Nervously, Naomasa gulped when his gaze met the injured Izuku. Could you give me a report on the situation? The green-haired hero sat on the ambulance stretcher while his wounds were being examined. You had been taken to the hospital for better treatment of her injuries. Izuku couldn't help but feel worried about his teammate, but he was also grateful for what she did to save him. We came to investigate some giant footprints that were reported recently. Izuku began his explanation, trying to stay strong despite the pain in his wounds. We reached the forest and advanced to the end of the trail. But it all turned out to be a trap, and about 5 monsters emerged to attack us. I managed to prevent them from seriously harming Mt.lady, but in return, I received a combined attack that left me unconscious. When I woke up, I was being cared for by an injured Mt.lady, who managed to defeat all the monsters and protect me at the same time. I understand. Naomasa remained calm, although he was surprised that a rookie could hold off so many enemies with the ability to cause so much destruction. I'm not done. Izuku reached into his right pocket. When I regained consciousness, I hurried to treat you's injuries and then called you guys. But I decided to do something before that, enter the place where the creatures came from and find a solution. Do you realize how dangerous that was? Naomasa frowned angrily. You could have died. In my defense, I was armed, and my brain wasn't functioning at 100% due to the blows, Izuku said, realizing the stupidity of his decision long after making it. When I entered the hideout, I couldn't find much. Most of the things were destroyed, but there was an intact computer. Did you extract information from it? It had a password. I'm not a hacker, and my instincts screamed at me not to try that way. Maybe there was a high security system or it was just a wrong assumption, who knows? Izuku pulled a hard drive from his pocket and handed it to Naomasa. I took the hard drive from the computer. I'm sure you have officers specialized in this field. That's a valuable contribution. Naomasa took the hard drive and placed it in the pocket of his coat. I'll let you know if there's anything useful on this disk. Thanks. But I prefer a favor right now. Izuku got up from the stretcher and stretched, only to feel his broken bones and a severe headache. Can you take me to the hospital? I can't drive in this condition. Come on, animal with a V for cow. Animal with a V for cow. You looked at the crossword puzzle in her hands, thinking of giving an answer. Akatani-san. How many letters is it? Try V Bora. Izuku and you were in the same hospital room, with separate beds and engaging in different activities to pass the time during their recovery. While you was solving a crossword puzzle, Izuku was reading a volume of One Piece. It turned out perfect. You smiled at the completed crossword puzzle. Thanks, Akatani-san. You're welcome. Izuku flipped the page of his manga, although I should be thanking you for saving me. You already did, 10 times. And all in the last 10 minutes. You crossed her arms, then returned to her normal position due to the pain in her recovering bones. I like receiving compliments, but seriously, Akatani, you don't have to thank me so much. Well, whatever, Izuku sighed and closed the volume in his hands. Do you think it's too soon to talk in depth about what happened? No, you paid special attention to Izuku. Shoot. I handed all the information to Naomasa. But I never said it was the only copy. Izuku took his phone from the bedside table next to his stretcher, searched through the saved files, and found some documents that he showed to a curious you. The creatures that attacked us in that place are codenamed Nomus. They are humans whose bodies were altered to artificially introduce quirks, Izuku explained, and Yu's eyes widened in horror. Those things that attacked us were humans? You said it well, Izuku couldn't help but feel disgusted by his own words, but it was the truth. When they attacked us, they were no longer humans, no longer living beings. They were beasts whose only thought is destruction, although not so different from a normal human. Still. You bit her lip. What else was in that place? The one operating in that base wasn't stupid, there's nothing explicit that reveals their intentions. However, they forgot a small detail. Izuku opened a document titled Evidence and Analysis. This document is a record of all the experiments conducted with the Nomus. What does it say? Yu asked, and Izuku approached her bed to show her closely. Honestly, this is an incredible amount of text. Izuku slid his finger across the screen, showing at least 400 pages. So, I'll just give you a summary of the most important entries. Entry 1. The test subjects reacted stably to the mutation process. Thanks to this surprising achievement, we can move on to the next phase after a few analyses. Entry 2. The bodies of test subjects 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 perfectly assimilated the quirks granted by the master, but test subjects 6 to 30 did not withstand the process and suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. Despite the losses, I consider this a significant breakthrough. Entry 12. The test subjects finally passed the obedience tests. Before reaching this point, they would attack anything nearby non-stop, but, thanks to my work, they now have the ability to obey an assigned voice. Entry 27. We are approaching the final phase of the Nomu project. My creations will be transferred to a facility in the Musetafu forest to test their ability to adapt to different environments. I will go with them to monitor their progress. These are the most important entries. Izuku finished reading and looked at his teammate/boss. Did you understand what they're planning? They want to form a Nomu squad. Izuku shook his head, surprising you. No? In the first entry, it talks about the mutation of the test subjects, but in the second, it specifies that only about 5 out of 30 survived the experiments. Takeyama-san, the guy behind this, worked with a minimum of 30 test subjects. What guarantees us that this is his first attempt? You swallowed hard at the green-haired man's words. And in entry 12, it says they are modifying them to obey orders. These subjects don't want a squad, they want a damn army of Nomus under their command. Oh, holy crap, the blonde was speechless after hearing that. A shiver ran down her spine, remembering the fight she had against 5 of those things. Does Naomasa know about this? He's a detective, it won't take him long to figure it out. Detective, weapons expert, you started counting, what else are you? Support hero, detective, weapons expert, boxing and mixed martial arts master, pilot of all kinds of vehicles, acrobat, tactical and strategic mastermind, polyglot, disguise and stealth master, prestidigitation genius, expert in criminalistics, secretary, bomb dismantling specialist, and nurse. Izuku broke Yu's brain after the 5th sentence. Oh, and I'm also a cook. God, I know I've prayed to you only a few times, but... Yu assumed a praying pose on the bed, joined her hands, and looked at the sky. Thank you for everything. Izuku decided to ignore that and focus on the documents he had on his phone. He had a lot to work on. Returning to the topic, Yu stopped thanking God and looked at her companion. Can we continue investigating this? After what happened, it's best to leave the investigation to the police. Izuku sighed disappointingly. Both of us need to rest, and I don't trust that the investigation will lead to something pleasant. So, are you saying we should give up? Yu frowned with annoyance. They experimented on people. I know, but we don't have enough resources to launch an investigation against them. Izuku didn't hesitate under his boss's gaze. We're just 2, and those things nearly killed you. Do you realize the risk of trying again? But what they did is horrible, but we won't stop them if we're dead. Izuku took his companion by the shoulders, stopping her words. We need to get more resources to face something like this. You and I are just rookies, no matter how skilled we are, there are still limits. Do you not remember that I was knocked out in a matter of seconds? Izuku let go of Yu and decided to calm down. He was raising his voice too much. You're my boss, and if you say you want to try, I'll do everything I can to make it work. But this is a suicidal action I don't agree with. Okay, Yu looked away, biting her lip with anger. We'll leave it at that for now, but we must become stronger as soon as possible. I'll help you as much as I can, I'm your support hero after all. Izuku gave a slight smile. But seriously, we should rest a bit. TSK, fine. Yu threw herself on the stretcher and turned her back to Izuku to sleep. Good night, Akatani. Good night, Takeyama-san. Should I tell her that the gown exposes that area? Izuku thought for a moment before shrugging and lying down to sleep again. Nah, she'll probably think I'm a pervert. Better let her figure it out on her own. Izuku stayed silent, trying to sleep for a long time, but he couldn't achieve anything, so he decided to check his document information again. Until a text message from an unknown number arrived on his phone, saying, "I want to talk to you." Izuku got up from the stretcher and walked to the hospital bathrooms. After a few minutes, he arrived and entered one, making sure no one else was present. Then, he dialed the unknown number and waited for a response. "Haven't you changed your number yet? It's been 8 years with the same one," a female voice sounded on the other end of the line, her tone overflowing with maturity and authority. "I don't like the idea of having to go through the contacts," Izuku rolled his eyes. "What do you want?" "I just wanted to know how things are going with your new boss. If she gives you trouble, just let me know. The heroes you told me about have already been fined for their false reports." Izuku frowned upon hearing that. "At least this time you didn't fire anyone," Izuku said, sounding quite annoyed at the memory. "Anything else I should know? I'm on vacation at the moment." "I wanted to ask you to help me with something, taking advantage of the fact that you're in Japan. The files have already been sent to your phone," the woman said, her tone becoming more serious. "The investigation of the hero killer is frozen. I need you to use that brain of yours and provide information to the heroes to get them working. You know, all this hero killer nonsense would end if you conducted a thorough investigation of corrupt heroes and showed the public the results." Izuku couldn't help but feel irritated by what he was hearing. "You know very well that I already have too many problems cleaning up the mess left by the former president of the CSPH in the organization. Hawks says otherwise." She fell silent for a moment upon hearing that. "Listen, Akatani, the public was educated to believe that the hero society is stable. If we reveal the corruption of some heroes in the system, that education will begin to unravel, and everything that has been forged over the years will collapse. Sooner or later, it will go to hell anyway, so make sure it's in a way that they think there will be a change for the better." Izuku expressed irritation at the words. "I'm informed, there are people following the nonsense that the hero killer preaches. Villains are imitating his methods, and though it's a very small number, it has the potential to increase," Izuku said. "Stain is a brainless idiot who thinks he can kill people in the name of an ideology mostly found in comics and manga. Yet, he contradicts his own ideology by killing heroes whose falseness is based on their own subjective views, not an objective standard. He's garbage who can't grasp the difference between real life and a superhero comic. But there's a bit of truth in what he says. Apologies? One part of his justification for bloodshed is that heroes in this society pursue the profession only for money and fame instead of saving people. We both know that such people exist, along with what they are capable of. Those people are the real false heroes," Izuku continued. The woman remained silent. "And as long as that bit of truth exists, more and more idiots will follow him." "How are you so sure?" "Because humans are idiots and bloodthirsty. We are wild beasts who learn to contain our wildness to form a society and prosper. We never stopped being hostile, as even the smallest child wants to hit another just for a petty whim. Deep down, we all want to harm others, and the desire to unleash our savagery blinds us, preventing us from seeing the foolishness we commit," Izuku explained. "In the world, there are 2 types of animals, those who can restrain their savagery and those who can't. The first group gave us the society we have, and the second is the plague that contaminates that society. But in the end, we are all the same, as it only takes a few impulses to lead the smartest animal towards its savagery." Izuku took a few seconds to breathe and reconsider his words. The woman said nothing during those seconds, waiting patiently. Once the green-haired man regained his composure, he took a breath and continued speaking. "Tell an animal to do something stupid with sweet words, and the animal will do that stupidity," Izuku explained. "Stain is giving the animals a chance to unleash themselves under the excuse of purging evil. If you let this continue, that bastard will have the savages of this society following his ideals, with a bunch of idiots excusing themselves under his pathetic attempt at an ideal to murder heroes until no hero can be considered true under that idiot's words. And what comes after the heroes? I'll tell you once, face the world, show them the mess, and promise to clean it up. It will upset them, but if you plan your cards well, you can regain their trust soon. But stay silent, and that rat will turn all of Japan into a den of animals attacking heroes left and right under his pathetic attempt at an ideal," Izuku said. "I'll send you the information later, but please listen to me. And by the way, Put that wretch in the electric chair. I'll think about what you said, but you should moderate your tone of voice towards me. Whatever you say, Izuku rolled his eyes, annoyed. Anything else you want to tell me? Actually, yes. I managed to contact David Shield, and he's willing to participate in the manufacture of your weaponry. It won't just be imported parts. Izuku smiled a bit at that. And Cassie asked me to send you greetings. She just returned from her last mission and wanted to know what happened to her former partner. Star and Stripe? I thought she was too busy being All Might's pirate copy. Izuku chuckled and shook his head. I know she admires him, but for God's sake, she should have a bit of her own identity. She won't be very happy to hear that. She's never happy to hear anything coming out of my mouth, Izuku said, although he still maintained a smile. I doubt that. She was really disappointed when you left her team. Having the quirkless #1 piloting one of her jets was quite an experience. If by experience you mean that, thanks to me, she didn't lose several teammates in combat, then yes. Don't be so arrogant, kid. Even with all that talent, there are still thousands of people who could bring you down with one blow. Yeah, I experienced that again today. How? Nothing, Izuku sighed tiredly. He didn't like to remember how he was taken down in a few seconds. Anyway, do you have anything else to tell me? I have to go back. Kaina asked about you. There was a long silence when those words entered his ears. Izuku could feel his heart racing. He took rapid breaths, and his eyes widened, taking several minutes to regain composure. I have to go. Just take care of yourself and give me that information as soon as possible, okay? Yes, I will. Izuku placed his thumb ready to end the call, not before saying a final farewell. Goodbye, Mom. With that said, Izuku ended the call with the current president of the Public Safety Commission for Heroes. Izuku opened his eyes with fatigue, only to shield himself from the sun's rays with one hand. The green-haired man sat on his bed and observed his surroundings. His mind always took a few seconds to process the environment before fully functioning again. It had been a day since he was discharged from the hospital with you. The blonde decided to give him a brief break before returning to the game, something Izuku appreciated greatly. The young adult had a lot to think about, and he would make the most of his rest days for that. But first, some coffee. Izuku left his room and walked to the kitchen. Once there, he took his coffee maker and prepared some coffee with cream, milk, and sugar. He drank about 2 cups before being at 100% for his day. Then, he sat in front of his computer and started working with the files he had received. Murder reports. Izuku opened the corresponding document, cracking his fingers. Let's see what you have, Stain. Izuku had to admit that, although Stain remained an idiot in his eyes, the guy knew how to execute a moderately decent murder. His most recent crime happened at 2 a.m. Any intelligent criminal would attack their victims at 2 a.m. At that time, most police officers and heroes switched shifts with others to continue their routes. They had a 30-minute interval to attack and escape, and Stain knew how to take advantage of that time. It occurred at 2:15 a.m. A professional hero was on his way to his agency to change shifts but was intercepted by Stain in an alley. Interesting, the alley is on the hero's route, but it also has advantages for him, Izuku thought, opening a digital map with the murder location. It's located in an area where vehicles don't have free access. For the police to approach, they would have to get out and run between the only free accesses to reach him, giving him a few extra seconds to escape. The walls muffle potential cries for help, along with a lack of points to see inside the alley. The key points for parkour and escape make the place flawless. I have to admit, Stain, you have talent for choosing terrain. Izuku now moved on to the crime scene photos and the autopsy, reading at a rapid pace without missing any crucial details. Once he finished, he took out a notebook and began to draw while thinking. 2 wounds, one superficial and the other noticeable. The first is a cut to the cheek that pierced the skin but is not very deep. The second is a puncture that went through the victim's skull and brain. Izuku continued reading the report, searching for something useful. There are traces of tears in his eyes. He probably let him live for a while before killing him. Torture is ruled out, so did he preach about his ideal? I wouldn't be surprised if he's the type of killer who needs someone to hear his nonsense before dying. Izuku continued reviewing the documents while drawing and noting what he learned from them. He looked into the testimonies of Stain's victims and even statements from people in the area during the incidents. An hour passed, during which the green-haired man did not stop investigating until he finally accomplished his goal. Izuku smiled at the final result of his research. Stain, also known as the hero killer, usually attacks around 2:02 in alleys with few accesses but a secure escape route. Witnesses claim they cannot move during the attack, And coupled with the slight cut everyone presence on their bodies, I have concluded that Stain is capable of paralyzing his victims using their own blood. That's why he always attacks by surprise and makes a cut on his victims deep enough to draw blood. Stain usually talks to his victims about his purpose as a person. He also ensures that in the areas where he attacks, it is known that he is there, generating fear, insecurity, and precautions in the hero society. Witnesses from the attacked areas claim to see a shadow moving rapidly across the city's rooftops. Also, on social media, it is quite common to hear rumors that Stain does not attack students due to a strict personal code. One victim claimed to hear Stain talking about the symbol of peace as a heroic figure. This, coupled with his concept of false heroes, leads me to think that Stain sees All Might as an example of what a true hero should be and considers anyone who does not follow his example as fake. Maybe I'm exaggerating? Nah, it fits perfectly with this extremist's behavior. Main report. Stain is an adult man of approximately 30 years with a twisted and extremist mentality. He uses bladed weapons such as katanas and knives for his assaults. There is a theory that he possesses impressive abilities to move swiftly and neutralize his opponents in seconds. He has a quirk that allows him to paralyze opponents using blood. He usually preaches to his victims about his beliefs before killing or incapacitating them, always announcing his arrival in a city/town by leaving a fake hero dead or incapacitated. Stain attacks in closed alleys around 2 a.m., mainly choosing places without cameras or external visibility points. Once he finishes, he retreats through the buildings before other professional heroes return from their shift exchange. It's a simple but effective mode of attack. Recommendations. Use a hero as bait, followed by a team of 8 heroes to ambush him. Each hero should have a specific quirk. The first hero should have a power of magnetism or the ability to remove objects from the opponent. The priority is to disarm Stain before he can draw blood from anyone and use his power. The second and third heroes should have powers that increase their movement speed. They should not attack Stain directly but block any escape routes and keep the killer always within a set perimeter inside the alley. Heroes 4 and 5 should be able to manipulate the environment, specifically being able to alter the alley to close off the upper escape route and also, if possible, limit Stain's mobility within the previously established perimeter. The sixth hero is one of the most important. They should have a quirk that allows them to manipulate the air around them. Their goal is to limit the air around Stain, causing it to gradually collapse until he faints. The seventh hero is the most crucial for this mission. They should have a quirk that allows them to either create illusions in the environment or affect the perception of the surroundings on a specific target. If they have the first, they will be responsible for hiding the presence of the other heroes to ambush Stain. If they have the second, they should focus on the hero killer while their teammates camouflage themselves in the environment to avoid detection. The eighth is the backup plan. They should have a power to alter the gravity of a target. In case everything else fails, they will increase gravity in Stain's body until he turns into a bloody pulp, later to be cleaned up by Washington. Continue with the following plan: use a decoy to lure Stain. If you don't have professional camouflage gear, heroes will dress as vagabonds and hide among the garbage. Once Stain is inside, the team will neutralize or eliminate him following my earlier instructions, provided in more detail on the final page of the report. In case of failure, at least 30 patrols should be ready to open fire on Stain. 2 helicopters should fly over the area using military-grade reflective camouflage. 2 snipers in each vehicle must be ready to shoot if Stain manages to surpass the police. If the assassin is captured, the same heroes who caught him earlier in one of the surveillance helicopters will escort him. If his death is confirmed, issue a statement reporting that the police killed him. Pretend that this extremist never existed, and we continue with our lives. Caution 1, don't be foolish enough to lower your guard, even for a second. If Stain doesn't kill you after that, I will. Caution 2, the CSPH has enough budget, do not skimp on expenses. End of report, I'll go make more coffee. Regards, not much, Izuku. Was it necessary to write it in such an informal way? The president of the CSPH asked over the phone. Now I have to rewrite it to present it without being taken as a joke. I don't know if it was necessary, but it was fun. Izuku shrugged, took a sip of coffee with the cup in one hand while holding the phone with the other. Besides, that's what you get for interrupting my vacation. Why do you consider working with a professional hero vacation? It was either this or accepting Queen Isabel's request to escort her and the royal family during their trip. Izuku sighed, somewhat tired. It sounds interesting, but I just finished dismantling a mafia in Shanghai and signing an agreement with the rival to eliminate drug trafficking. I want a break. Does the world's #1 quirkless need a break? Partly, Izuku shrugged. Anyway, I wanted to ask you a favor in exchange for this information. I'm listening. My partner wants to raise her ranking to request support in an investigation and a future assault on an unknown enemy, Izuku said, but two rookies can't just appear out of nowhere and ask for reinforcements of that magnitude. Continue. I want you to move some things around and give us an important mission, not so important for a rookie but not a walk in the park either. Enough to put us on the map and gradually build enough prestige to request the necessary support, Izuku explained, paused to take another sip of coffee. Can you do it? I'll see what I can get for you. Thanks, Ma. Take care, kid. Hawk sends his regards. Izuku didn't respond, just hung up the call and continued drinking his coffee with great calm. Izuku's motorcycle sped toward the port. You held onto his waist with a worried expression. The green-haired man didn't hesitate to run red lights and skillfully navigate through traffic to reach the scene. This was too important to take lightly. Everything started relatively well on this day until a ship carrying radioactive materials to a local laboratory exploded. Somehow, one of them detonated, causing the ship to sink underwater with all that material damaging the ocean. A request reached the heroes with quirks that could help in this situation. Obviously, a giant woman capable of lifting the ship wouldn't stay out. Any idea to get the ship out of there? You asked, raising her voice as the wind was too strong at that speed. My suit doesn't have radiation protection. Mine does. That's why I'll go in first, Izuku responded, having all his gear with him. First, we'll go to the laboratory and get containers for the materials. Then, I'll go to the accident area and make sure to contain them. Once the radiation decreases, you can lift the ship from the tip and throw it into the safe zone. Safe zone? In these kinds of accidents, a safe and isolated zone is first created to contain the structure. Even if there's low radiation, you can't just throw a ship with hazardous materials anywhere, explained the green-haired man, and with a quick move, the motorcycle increased speed, concentrate, and let's not mess this up. Yes. You smiled confidently. They quickly arrived at the laboratory where the materials were supposed to arrive. Both showed their hero/support hero cards, and they were allowed entry. Izuku packed the necessary containers into his backpack, and then they continued to the disaster area. There was a military perimeter preventing the entry of unauthorized personnel, although reporters had no trouble standing near the fence to record. Izuku approached the entrance and handed his credentials to the guard. He observed them and let them pass into the area. Izuku parked his motorcycle near the other vehicles and began preparing along with you. Hey, you watched as a military personnel approached them, carrying a weapon. Were you requested for this disaster? No, but we have a plan to fix it. Izuku put on his new gloves. His suit had already been repaired by a local agency. He is my partner, Akatani. I am the pro-hero Mt.lady. You introduced yourself to the military personnel. Captain Shinami gave a classic military salute. You imitated him somewhat nervously. We appreciate your help in the incident, but I have to monitor your actions inside the ship. My visor has a camera. Tell your soldiers to connect to it, and you can talk to me through the communicator. Izuku tossed a USB to the soldier, then put on his helmet and placed the backpack with the containers and tools on his back. Now I have to go. Mount, stay ready for extraction. The blonde gave him a thumbs up. Izuku ran to the edge of the dock and with a great leap, he jumped into the water. Izuku swam a considerable distance to reach the ship area, where the radiation began. The green-haired man swam around the ship, looking for an entry. He found a giant hole in an area that allowed him access, although he had to stop when he saw various materials on the floor. Akatani, do you hear me? Loud and clear, Captain, Izuku responded to the call while observing the materials. This is a disaster. The hole's location has a door that leads to the main area of the materials. There should be a fire extinguisher nearby. Use it to put out the fire from the facilities. Understood. Izuku swam towards the materials and carefully stored them in the containers he brought. Slowly, he cleared the area until the explosion zone was finally clear. Once finished, he entered through the explosion hole and headed to the main area where they stored the materials, but he encountered an unpleasant surprise. Oh crap. Captain. I hear you, Akatani, over. There's a hole leading to the engine room. The ship's fuel is there. Izuku hung onto a pipe on the ceiling and closely observed the problem. A box of materials fell near that place. What kind of materials? I don't know. The box only has the registration number. Izuku zoomed in on his helmet's visor. Read the number on the box, B number 3. It also has some cracks that allow access to it. It could be dangerous if it comes into contact with gasoline. I shouldn't risk it. Search the ship's main office, that's where the cargo records are. There must be one that indicates what the material is. Okay, on my way. Despite being underwater, the ship's position and size kept most of the liquid in its lower area. However, the pressure managed to destroy some areas that blocked important access points to the upper part of the ship. Bang! Oh, that would be unless Izuku could destroy the blocks. Here we go. Izuku hopped around the ship to climb up. After a few minutes, he reached the office, kicked down the door, and went straight to the documents. Izuku searched and searched for several minutes until he found the material. B number 3, sodium shipment. Oh crap, Izuku mentally cursed the problem they were facing. Captain, it's sodium. Sodium? Isn't that the material that explodes in water? Exactly, Mount. Wait, what are you doing on the line? The captain went to greet other heroes who also came to the accident. Tell them to stay away. If that box opens and water comes into contact with sodium, this whole ship could explode. Izuku left the document on the table and exited the office. I'm completely soaked, taking off the suit is not an option, so I have to find a way to get that box out of there without touching the water. Don't transport ships have a pressurization system? If you close the cracks in the hull, you could drain the water and have more space to move the box away. That could work, it's risky, but it could work. How did you think of that? Izuku asked. I saw a documentary a while ago on television. Okay, I'll look for a way to seal the hull. Izuku started running through the facilities. There must be a technical room with tools for this. Sealing a ship's hull was neither an easy nor quick task. Izuku took about 4 hours to completely seal the holes in the ship's hull, and he was fortunate that it wasn't stuck among rocks that would prevent access. He also had to do some repairs to the pressurization system, but after hard work, the system finally drained most of the water in the lower area. This allowed the green-haired man to place the box in a safe place and then put the sodium inside a container. After that, Izuku continued placing each material in its respective container until the area was clear. Then he emerged from the water and took a radiation reading. When he saw that it was more or less safe, he signaled to you to take action. Mt.lady grew giant and carefully lifted the ship out of the water, placing it in a safe area where scientists could take care of the rest. Everything ended with a round of applause from the spectators. Izuku and you received congratulations for their work. Although the former had to go through a cleaning process before interacting with others. Well done if you ask me, you patted Izuku on the back, who could only smile in response. Izuku gave a smile to his companion before his phone interrupted the conversation. He stepped away for a moment and took out his cell phone in private. He smiled when he saw a message saying here's what you asked for, good luck along with a series of information. What's going on? You approached Izuku with some concern, is something important? Well, remember what I said about getting a mission? Yu's face seemed to light up at hearing that. Did you get us an incredible mission? It depends on your standards of incredible. Do you know Shokai Studios? They make a lot of superhero movies. You nodded quickly. Lately, there have been accidents involving their employees. The studio is insecure, so they need security during the filming of their next movie. So? Yu's smile widened. Exactly, Izuku returned the smile, we have a job.